So any any brave souls want to take on the listening task here?
I will accept.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So yeah, you go ahead and start the conversation by asking me about the change or the feedback, and then if I want to talk about it, then we'll go from there.
Okay. Um, well, Jason, can you explain to me this change that other people are thinking that you should make?
Hmm. Yeah, sure. So my wife in particular really thinks that I should do more like home improvement kind of tasks, and I think that I should not.
Okay. Why do you think you should not?
Um, I don't like them. They like I feel pretty negatively when I'm doing them. I'm also very bad at them, and so that increases the negativity. So I don't want to do it, and I'm terrible at it. Um, and um, they're often like way more complicated than my wife or I think they are, including like multiple trips to the store to get stuff that I forgot. I might have to buy a new tool that I didn't have. And it's not like doing a recipe where like, oh, I just follow these steps and, like if you give me something from IKEA, I can put it together. But if I have to figure out how to do it, probably two or three of those solutions aren't going to work. And then I'm going to have to. So anyway, basically I'm lazy.
And what are her reasons for wanting you to do them?
I think one is that she feels that it is my duty. So she's
Okay.
very traditional,
Okay.
and she feels like there are things that men do and women do, and she's doing all the things that women should. So, you
You need
should
to do the man's
you
role.
should
Okay.
you should do the men's things. Also, she thinks I should do it because she's extremely cheap. And so if we pay someone to do it, it doesn't matter like how much what our income is like now compared to what it was like when we were first married. She just looks at the raw number and is like, oh no, no. And so definitely it can't be anybody who is licensed and bonded to do this. It's going to be like a dude named Chuco that her brother-in-law
Mhm.
knows. Maybe we could get away with that, but she really doesn't want to spend the money on it. um, I think those are the main things. Like she really thinks that it's my role and my duty, and I should perform my duty. Um, and she really doesn't want to pay someone else to do it. Um, and then
Okay,
she
so I'm
just and then she likes whatever it is that we're fixing makes her happy or fixing up.
okay. So I'm hearing that you don't feel at all it's within your gifts and abilities, nor is it something you like to do, but she feels
Mm-hmm.
that it's your duty as the man of the house to do those things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could just
Um,
add, when I took shop class in high school, I asked other people to use the power tools because I was scared of them. And they wouldn't let me take home ec. I tried to take home ec and they thought it was some kind of ploy to get around more girls, which it probably was, but they wouldn't let me take it. Oh, we lost
Did she
Jenny.
freeze?
She's frozen down in Chile.
Yes.
Hey, there she is.
Hey, sorry. I could hear you guys talking. I was like, I'm here, and then it disappeared.
It stopped at a good point. You had a big smile on your face, but that's got to be kind of like being like a ghost. You're like, hey, can't you see me?
Yes.
I'm right here.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Should I continue or did someone else
Yeah,
continue?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good, because I was really getting into that. All right. Let's get back. Okay. So looking back, have you run into these kinds of disagreements before in your relationship?
No, no, we always agree about everything. Um, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like when we were first together and we lived in a trailer, and I had a 1979 Chevy pickup truck. She really felt like I should do all the repairs on that, and I actually did. Actually, that's a pretty easy truck to work on because it doesn't have any of the modern stuff, and you can access everything. You can like sit on it and put your feet inside where the engine is, and everything's super. You can find it. I jerry rigged stuff, like put a piece of wood in to keep the alternator at the right tension. And so, yeah, that was a time when I actually learned a bunch of stuff about how to fix cars. But the new ones, I can't do anything with.
Mm. Um, what was what was different about that scenario and the scenario now?
Um, hmm. I think one is that I shared her concern about money at that point because we were very poor.
Mm.
And so doing it myself was really important. Um, I think also I was a bit I was a bit younger. That's something I forgot too, is like I changed out the faucet on the sink in the bathroom, and I'm like sweaty and dirty and uncomfortable. And the older I get, the less I want to spend an afternoon being sweaty and dirty and uncomfortable. So I was younger, so it was like way easier to just get my hands dirty and sit and pull things off the truck and all that kind of stuff, swing a hammer, all that kind of stuff.
So it seems like you're on kind of two opposite ends because spending money makes her uncomfortable. Getting sweaty, dirty, doing this physical hard labor that you're not even know about, it makes you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you do agree on um, about this, or how can I say? Is there a topic that you do agree on that could be applied to this situation?
Let me see. Yeah. I mean, I think we agree that we want those projects done. Um, and she's after the last what would I call that, debacle of me trying to put up some solar lights for her in the backyard that cost like $120 in supplies, um, and took like 2 afternoons. She was like, we should just hire somebody to do this. So maybe she's moving a little bit closer to my position too.
Mm. Okay. So would you say that you agree on um, the end product? You both want the end results.
Absolutely. Yeah. And starting to agree on counting the cost ahead of time and deciding if it's best for me to do it or someone else to do it.
Mm.
Like, yeah. Yeah, there's starting to be more agreement around that.
Okay. If you were to do some of the work or any of the work on this project, how would that make you feel?
Um, well, when I get done, I do walk around the house with my arms up and I'm like, yes, and I make everybody in the house recognize that the faucet works now. Um, at inappropriate times, that don't have anything to do with the conversation. So I do feel good when I've completed a task. Um, Doing the task is less fun. Having it completed is fun. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, what would make it more fun for you? Is there anything that would make this project more fun?
Um, yeah, I think like planning the project ahead of time, right? So like there's really good YouTube videos about how to fix stuff. And so watching them ahead of time, and this sounds stupid, but coming up with a bit of a budget, both time and energy and tools and supplies ahead of time, and then having us decide, is this something I should do or should we get Chuco to do it?
Mm. Is that something that you would enjoy doing with your wife?
Yes, I would enjoy looking at videos of other people working, and I would enjoy the possibility that I might be able to pay someone That's actually, it's interesting. There's research that shows that's one of the things that makes people most happy. So like it's not money, it's experiences, but also if you pay someone to do something you don't want to do, that's a great way to feel happy. So so if I do this ahead of time and I determine, yeah, this one's just, I just don't want to do this, and we agree to pay someone else to do it, that would make me happy. It would also, like the incompetence thing that I feel when I'm doing it wrong 27 times, it would um it would eliminate some of that because I've checked ahead of time, and I've kind of think I reasonably have the skills to do whatever the job is.
How would your wife feel about the if you did the process together, like you were saying, looking at the videos and figuring out the materials and then comparing those two options?
Yeah, she likes that kind of stuff. She gets a bit obsessive about, like, the lights, for example. Like, I know the lights are coming before she buys them because she's just talking about lights and solar lights and how good they look, and drive by a house, and so I know it's coming. And she's probably like looking at lights and YouTube videos and home improvement shows about lights. So I think she would enjoy looking at what the project should look like ahead of time and maybe figuring out what it would cost. Yeah, she would probably like that whole process actually.
Mm. And what would be the best case scenario, do you think, out of all of that process?
hmm So one would be that we would have this like joint activity to do together. And for example, like when we do put together shelves from IKEA, and like we did our laundry room and put a whole bunch of new shelves in there, that was actually kind of a bonding experience because all the parts are there. I had all the tools. It's something I've done before. Um, and she helped with it, and I didn't ever lose my temper, and it was good. So I think if we plot it out ahead of time, and it's, almost like a kit, right? Like I have everything I need. I know in advance what it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. Then it actually could become something enjoyable. That's kind of a bonding experience. And I still get to walk around the house like this and announce to everybody at inappropriate times I did that. Yeah.
Okay, Jason. So based on everything you've shared, what do you think you should do?
I actually think that's a really good idea to, like, when she starts talking about something like that, because I can definitely hear it coming. Say, hey, let's check out some videos together and see what that would look like. Let's price some of this stuff, and let's do a little. Let's figure out what the cost of that, the true cost of that, right? Time, energy, tools, all of that stuff, and then let's decide if we want to pay somebody to do it or if it's something that we want to do together. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to handle that.
Wonderful. The bill will be in the mail.
Nice. Wow, that's pretty good. That's very good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and Amanda, you want to take the debriefing and just see what was get some strengths and some areas of to work on. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, we can hear you.
I thought Jenny had a lot of great open-ended questions, which made Jason reflect and think about different things. In the beginning, I was a little bit like, oh no, because he started off with, why don't you want to make the change? I was like, she's starting right away with why he doesn't want to do it. So I'm like, this could be hard to get around. But then your second question was, why do you think your wife wants you to do it? So it was kind of counteracted those initial why he doesn't. So that was a good follow-up question, because otherwise I was like, I don't know where you're going to go from there. I also liked the thought of, like, how does it make you feel? And it brought in the feeling of accomplishment, that it's not just I don't like to do it. It got more to the why, that it wasn't just I don't like doing any projects. It was those other pieces, like the incompetency or the trying something and then it not working. So kind of led to that, like, well, those things happen because we didn't plan together. Or it sounded like maybe sometimes your wife does all the planning and throws it at you and you're like, oh man. So if you do it together, then you could avoid some of those pitfalls. So I thought those questions really guided the conversation. One thing I would suggest, it could help to have more reflection in between, because you asked and then he responded, but then you went to another question right away. So being able to reflect, restate some of the things he said to solidify that, or confirm what you were speaking about together. So that was one suggestion I would have.
Thank you. I do always think about that because I'm like, okay, good questions. Let's go. And you're right. Thank you.
I can go ahead and go next. I would, looking back on it, like I initially, when you asked what you started out with, what are the reasons I don't want to do it? I had that initial concern as well. But I think in this case, it actually might have worked well because it's something that I really don't want to do. And so that is something that you do in motivational interviewing, is roll with the resistance, and sometimes even ask for more examples of it if you're worried that you're going to get resistance, or that if you don't give a full voice to the sustained talk, that they're going to feel like they're not heard. And so I think it ended up actually working out in this case, because it allowed me to say those things and feel like I was heard and understood about my my poor status as a martyr in my home. I got to get that off my chest. And then I would say I would echo the thing about the reflections. There were definitely summaries. So you summarized and used those well as bookends to kind of move to a next section of the conversation. But those shorter just reflections, I didn't hear as much. And you did some double-sided reflections too, but again, they almost felt a bit more like summaries. So that would be the area to work on too, would be just the brief reflections.
Jason, can you possibly come up with an example of that? So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so there were a couple of times that you kind of summed up, like, so you're feeling this way about it, but your wife feels this way about it. It was like an encapsulation of several things that I had said.
Yeah.
Whereas a reflection is going to be more about the most immediate thing that was said, if that makes sense. So summaries are a form of reflection, right? But reflections aren't. That's probably making it harder than it needs to be. But the reflection is much briefer, and it's much more about the most immediate thing that was said. So if I said, planning things ahead of time will eliminate some of my sense of incompetency, she might say, you'd feel less incompetent if you planned. Just that, right? And then she says that, and then I might elaborate on that, or a brief summary might, she might say something slightly different than what I said. That's a guess. She might say, so you'd be less frustrated if you planned ahead of time, which isn't exactly what I said, but it's referring to just that most recent thing that I said, adding a little twist on it, and that it might provoke me to say more, not based on a question, but just based on her reflection. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I have somebody in my life that does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear that. So, okay.
One other one I thought of is when you were talking about the car and how you learned a lot. That could have been an opportunity to say, when you fix things and you put your mind to it, you really learn a lot and you appreciate that. So kind of building on like that past positive from when you did accomplish things and felt good about it.
Yep. That would have been really, really specific to that one statement. Yeah. Or yeah. Yeah. When you feel you can do it, you actually enjoy it. Yeah. Kathleen, any thoughts?
I don't think so. I feel like square one today. I don't know. I got a lot out of just the rhythm, and Jenny's always great. So the one thing I didn't hear was right away, can we talk about it?
Oh, okay.
Sure. Yeah, you're right.
We have permission to talk about it,
Yeah, you're
but
right.
I don't know if that fit in, you know, we knew that was coming. We knew we were going to talk about it, right? Jay?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's assumed in the situation. I still think it's a good idea to
Mm.
just be explicit about it, even if someone's, made an appointment to talk with you about X. It's still a good idea to say, hey, it looks like, you made an appointment to talk about X. So yeah, well, I got about 20 minutes to do that. How does that sound? But yeah, I think it's always a good idea to ask permission, even if it's like assumed in the situation.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
So with that, starting off with the kind of question of why don't you want to do it? For me, I guess I was thinking it's super important for me to understand why you don't want to, if I want to be able to go somewhere with it or what's going on. So what would you suggest would be the best, like in that situation? What would have been maybe what you guys would have picked up with or started with?
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that, but I'd be interested to hear from other people first. Amanda, any thoughts about that?
One thought I have is starting in a more neutral place. So, like, tell me about the change, or maybe tell me about the person who's wanting to make the change and what they're thinking about it. So maybe there is, like you said, you want to understand, you want to know what's going on. But if there's a way to ask in a more neutral way, so just saying, tell me about the situation, or what's the change that is the person is wanting you to make. So maybe it would naturally flow, because often when a person maybe starts speaking about it, they might follow up with but and start speaking about that, what their reasons or thoughts are. So
Mhm. Yeah, Kathleen, any thoughts?
No, work is blowing me up. I'm sorry. I missed part of that. So
Getting some texts.
a
Mhm.
text and Teams messages and emails.
Oh, good times.
Yeah. So
So
I'm trying to,
I
I need another computer where I can just be on that and not
right,
have work bothering me.
right. That's so
Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't have thoughts on
So I guess one thing I want to address is that that's a super common belief that I need to know what the barriers are so that I can help you, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
And I think there are tons of therapy that assume that. When you go to the doctor, they're looking for the symptoms, but you don't necessarily have to. So I would challenge that belief that the person can come to some resolution even if the listener never finds out what the barriers are.
Mm.
That so there's kind of it's a little bit of a myth, right? And it's definitely in our culture, and I definitely think so it's super natural to start a conversation that way, but you can actually come to a resolution without ever actually identifying the barriers. um, Also, that it might be more important that the person themselves, since we're listening from them, what um, their solutions are, what their thoughts are, and so on, then it's less important that I be able to see what those are, because I'm actually not going to come up with the solution.
True. Yeah. Because that often then you start thinking about, okay, if I were in that situation, these are maybe techniques, instead it takes you away from
True.
listening.
Yep.
Sure.
So now I'm doing the work. You're not doing the work, right?
Mhm.
And then in terms of a way to start it, I would definitely go very similar to what Amanda did. So maybe just start out really broad, like so your wife wants you to do more projects around the house. You don't. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about about that whole situation.
Mm.
And then it could go. You might still get sustained talk, right? But it is broader. The question that you asked would always, I think, elicit sustained talk. So
True. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
cool. All right. So the next thing on the agenda, good, by the way. I want to review that too, because I felt a shift from really not wanting to do projects to being like, in some cases, I might actually want to do them. So I want to review that, because as the person being interviewed, I couldn't necessarily break down when that happened. So it'll be interesting to review that. But yeah, let's take a look at the decisional balance.